Hello and welcome. We had an absolutely crazy day here at round 7 for the Sinquefield Cup, and I'm here to take you through all of the action. Let's start with the results. Start us off, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave made, I believe, his 26th draw in a row, this time against Anish Giri. NVL, of course, recently broke the record for most draws in a row, and he's continuing the streak here today. Nordabek Abdusadarov successfully knocked Wesley So out of tournament contention by defeating him here in round number 7. Pragnananda accepted a draw against Jan Nepomniachtchi in a game in which he might have had some chances. Alireza FIroujza defeated world champion Liren Ding in the most important result for the round. With this win, Alireza has all but secured himself first place in the Grand Chess Tour and left himself in great position for the final 2 rounds to win the Sinquefield Cup. And lastly, Fabiano Caruana could not defeat his opponent Gukesh D despite having some excellent chances in that game. With this massive win, Alireza FIroujza is in sole first place by a full points, leading the rest of the field. Fabiano Caruana finds himself in clear second with 4 points, and trailing them are a slew of players on 3.5, including Abdusadarov, NVL, Wesley So, Pragnananda, and Gukesh. And trailing our pack is Liren, who lost today, Jan Nepomniachtchi, and Anish Giri wraps that up. Now, let's take a look at some of those key moments that led us to where we are right now. Our first key moment of the day comes to us from the game of Alireza FIroujza versus Liren. Like I said, this is the most important game for the day. With his win in this game, Alireza FIroujza left himself in great position to win not only the Grand Chess Tour, but the Sinquefield Cup. In this position, Ding is already under a little bit of pressure with the black pieces. White has some excellent space in the center. Alireza has been playing a long positional game with lots of maneuvering, keeping all the pieces on the board, and here Ding finally cracked. What he needed to do is maintain the tension, keep the balance, play some simple positional moves like bishop b8, can also go h4 here, just to maintain the balance. Instead, Ding finally cracked, played e takes d4 to open up the position. But as you can see from that eval bar, this was a massive mistake. It's a little bit unclear what Ding missed, but at the end of this very forcing line, after c takes d4, Ding's idea was to go d5, and after the simple captures, this pawn on a5 is up for grabs. Alireza takes on g6 with check, grabs that pawn, and not only does the a5 pawn fall, but this is the fork, and the d5 pawn will go as well. Ding tried to play bishop to b8, but after captures, White is up a clean 2 pawns and was able to convert this advantage without any difficulty. Our second key moment of the day comes to us from Nordabek Abdusadarov against Wesley So. Wesley finds himself in a somewhat uncomfortable position out of the opening, but it's not totally lost just yet. Earlier in the game, Wesley went for h5, h4 to attack a knight on g3, but thus left himself with a somewhat weak pawn here on h4. At the same time, Black is trying to hold together these split pawns on the queen side with the queen, and it's going to be a difficult job to keep track of everything here. Somewhat surprisingly, the engine thinks Black should go g5, sacrificing a lot of your king safety just to maintain the defense of this pawn. Perhaps that's a sign that Wesley was already in some trouble. Instead, Wesley went for the more human-looking queen to b7. But this actually leaves him unable to keep track of all of those weak pawns. Abdusadarov found the correct move in bishop e2, and while this move doesn't look threatening, all of a sudden it reveals an attack with the queen and with the rook, and Black is going to really struggle to keep all these pawns together. Wesley's idea was to go queen to e4 to interfere with the queen's attack on h4. Of course, if White were to capture this, knight keeps track of this pawn and allows Black to get some activity down the d-file, but Abdusadarov continued playing accurately, found rook c4. Now Wesley has to move the queen, and Abdusadarov is free to keep improving his position. You know, it would have been really easy to settle for one extra pawn here with rook takes h4, but again, Black is looking for counterplay down the d-file. Abdusadarov finds the best move, which is rook a to c1, bringing all the pieces into the game. And shortly after, he grabs pawn number 1, and then successfully tries to boot out this rook from d2. Here already it's something like +3, and Wesley is entirely lost, but Abdusadarov finds a very clean way to end the game. After rook f to d8, Chess.com gives queen a5 2 exclamation marks. What an excellent move. This move ties down the pawn, pinning it to the queen, ties down this rook, and attacks this rook. Now, no matter what Wesley does, it's going to have a difficult time keeping track of all these pieces. You might want to take on c2, but then d8 hangs with check. You might want to, play some normal move, but then d2 is hanging. Wesley tried knight to e4, but this knight cannot stay. After bishop to f3, the threat is to take on e4 and capture d2. Wesley goes rook to 8 to d6. Now we get queen to b4, and the knight has to move, and the rooks will perish. What a win by Abdusadarov. Now let's check out our third key moment. Our third and final key moment, of course, is this game between Fabiano Caruana and the World Championship challenger Gukesh D. Fabiano had been nursing a tiny advantage throughout the game, and as a viewer, I thought he was going to get there. It was building and building and building, and it culminated at this moment. Here, Fabiano just played knight to d3, and Fabiano's advantage relies on the fact that these 2 pawns, again, we have split pawns, and they're just slightly weak for black. Under the pressure, Gukesh got tired of defending patiently. He'd been going bishop g7, bishop back to f6, knight back to d6, knight to b5 for a while, and he tried to play actively with rook e to g7. This, of course, is a mistake that gave Fabiano an excellent opportunity to win the game. Better was, again, just to continue waiting, just play bishop back to g7, and let white show you what his idea is before you commit to something like rook g7. Instead, we see rook e to g7 in the game, and then hopefully you at home can find this nice idea that Fabiano missed. It is, of course, to play rook takes f6, sacrificing the rook on f6. The idea is if you capture back, I can take on f6, and you have some difficulty defending all your guys. It's not super easy. Rook e6 means you cannot capture here, but of course we have knight c5 with tempo, defending our rook, renewing the threat, and black cannot save all the pieces. Perhaps what Fabi missed was not rook takes f6, but knight takes c3, when you have to calculate accurately to understand that you have rook takes g6, knight takes e4, and then you have to see that rook takes g7, or rook h6, or even knight e5 are actually all very pleasant for white, when in this endgame, white is definitely on the better side. You can take e5 and be up a pawn, or go something like knight c5, which is interesting. Black would not be able to capture, as the king and pawn endgame is winning, with the king coming up to the center, and capturing e5, as well as going g3, making an outside passed pawn. So black would have to play something like knight to g5, and now you can snag this pawn on a6, with excellent winning chances. Now, Fabiano, for whatever reason, low on the clock, 2 minutes on his clock, did not find rook takes f6 and instead chose to defend passively with rook to f2. As you see, chess.com says, big miss, gets the red X. And here, Gukesh found the way to solve most of his problems with knight takes c3 and rook g3. We see all the pieces coming off the board, and Gukesh was able to draw without any difficulties in this double rook endgame, thanks to white's slightly weak king.
Thank you for watching the video. Please like, share, and subscribe.